You're watching the Anthony James YouTube channel, where I, Anthony James, as well as some of my friends, review TV and film. It would mean the world to me if you would subscribe. Hello, and welcome back to our His Dark Materials discussion and review. Well, Eimear, how are you this week?
I am very well, thank you. How are you this week?
Doing very well. It's a little late this week, guys. We know. Sorry about that. Is what it is. I don't think we have to explain why.
Life in it.
Yeah, life. That's what I said on Dark Discussions. It's a process, this whole life thing, you know. Anyway.
It's not about the destination, it's about the journey.
It is. I'm actually really upset, though, because I didn't realize until after I'd seen this episode, or just before I'd seen this episode, that this is actually going to be the second last episode of the season.
Yeah.
7 episodes only.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying this season, and it feels like we were robbed, that it's not going to be longer.
Well, we have been robbed, but I think it's probably just because they didn't want to carry on to the next story, or they didn't want to stretch it out. I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, it's always better to just let it be what it is rather than make it stretch for the sake of having a long series, whenever that'll make it suffer, ultimately.
Exactly.
It's about the best product, isn't it?
It is. And speaking of best product, this week's episode was not it.
No. Harsh. But
no, it was fine. It was a good episode, but it was very much clearly setting up for stuff coming, because there wasn't much.
It was a bit drawn out in a way. And
it was a quieter episode based on, like, we've had a couple of really good episodes in a row, like where there's the heist episode and like this is just
the one before this was a complete banger, and I feel like this was a decompression from that. It was like, okay, and we're going to slow the pace down again. Now we're getting over that episode almost.
Yeah, and it also suffered a little bit, I think, from like certain characters who we didn't see last episode, sort of now just appearing again as if they were sitting waiting for the next episode to come.
Like what?
Like the witches, for example. Like they went through the portal, and then there's a whole episode's worth of time which we didn't see them.
Yeah.
And then it's just like, oh, okay, it started this episode. We've been waiting. Now let's continue. Now that the cameras are on, let's continue our journey. I don't really like, that's kind of fourth wall breaking for me. That sort of thing.
Fair enough, but I mean,
they can fly.
Well, I mean, they were just getting to them and finding them. It
didn't take that long to get, like, they can fly. It didn't take that long to get there.
All right, fair enough.
Like, anyway, but in general, it was a good episode. Like, the biggest thing in the whole episode we should talk about, first of all, is the fact that Mrs. Coulter could somehow control or not get killed by the Spectres.
Yeah. I actually really liked that whole sort of sequence in that. I think that was a highlight of the episode for me, is the scenes with Mrs. Coulter and Lord Boreal. Yeah, they were really good, I thought, of, you know, his sort of nervousness and jitteriness, and she just went, screw it, I'm going to walk out here. And you could tell she was afraid, but she was not. Her want for control was greater than her fear. Yeah,
exactly. And I turned to Eimear straight away and said, do we find out why she can do that? You know, why can she control the Spectres? And then like Eimear, and then like literally within like 5 minutes, we found out why.
We had an answer.
So the answer was that she's able to suppress what they're looking for. Basically, what makes us human is what they're looking for, and she's able to suppress that.
Yeah.
What do you think about that description? Does that sound like a little sort of explainy?
I have to say, when you asked me, do we get an answer? I said, we get an answer. I'm not entirely sure it's a satisfying answer. And I think that still rings true for the show.
Yeah.
Having said that, I could accept it a bit more in the show. In the book, I kind of just went, I read it and went, wait, that's it? Yeah. It's like one throwaway line as to, you know.
Like, there has been a lot of build-up to Mrs. Coulter having something non-human about her. Like, the fact that she's able to go so far away from her demon, her, like, she's detached from her own soul. Like, it makes complete sense.
It does.
That she can do this.
Yeah.
It's just that
it's not a practical answer.
Well, like, it all comes down to, really, it's screwing with my theories. Because I honestly thought that the Spectres attacking people was going to do... Now... Actually, maybe it still does, but basically there was a mention in the show about Spectres attacking dust, right? And wanting to... Something to do with them attacking dust. So I thought, whenever they said that children don't get it, but when you go through the change, then you start getting killed. So when you get your period, you start getting killed. Not period, sorry. Well, puberty, I suppose. Well, for one half of us, it's getting a period.
That applies to half the population.
Yeah. I don't know.
And then, like, others...
That was really my brain substituted the word period for puberty. But anyway, it's still kind of correct.
Yeah, it's true. It's still true.
Yeah, but basically, like so I thought because when you start getting puberty, you then start getting attacked by the specters. I was like, well, what's the difference between children and humans, and adults? And then I thought it's probably that as you get older, for some reason, you have more dust. Mm-hmm. So that's whatever dust is, right? I think maybe I'm a bit simplistic here. I'm thinking of like dust as in on the shelf. so as you get older, the more dust you have. That's what I thought. But then because Mrs. Coulter was able to take what was human in her out to suppress it, it sort of makes me think, well, that can't be true because what would the dust just run away from her, or you know what I mean? I don't think my theory's true because of that.
I don't know. I think what you're saying makes sense though, because if you take the sort of acquiring of dust as what it is to be human, as Mrs. Coulter put it, if you that is kind of the difference.
So she didn't acquire dust, maybe?
Well, no, I don't think that's it so much. I think if you acknowledge that dust comes about as you grow up and become an adult, then I guess you could equate it to a loss of innocence.
Yeah.
And therefore, it would be a maturing of feelings, and because children very much live in the moment, right? And they just experience joy and in the moment and sadness in the moment, and they don't have a sense of consequences or long-term ramifications emotionally, whereas adults do. And Mrs. Coulter, I think it still works because Mrs. Coulter, we know, is like essentially an unfeeling bastard, is what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. So it's not that she didn't go through the loss of innocence. Obviously she did, but it is that she is also able to just, as you said, detach herself emotionally. Yeah.
I'm laughing because earlier on I was talking to a friend and we were talking about living in Belfast, and they saw Peter Dinklage, who plays Tyrion on Game of Thrones, running and going for a jog.
Yeah.
And then that put in my mind the scene of in Game of Thrones where he's like, all dwarves are bastards in their father's eyes, right? And then when you said she was a bastard, in my head, I don't know why, straight away in my head was, all women are bastards in their father's eyes.
Okay, that was a tenuous.
Sorry,
rabbit
my
hole
brain. My brain did that like that, and
it's been a long week. We're overworked and overtired.
I had to explain it because otherwise the viewers are just going to be watching you talking. And I'm just sitting here laughing at you. That's not what I was doing.
I'm not sure you made it any clearer by actually explaining it.
I think
was such a weird tangent.
It was definitely an alleyway. My head went down, but I think you'll get it, guys. Right. So then the Coulter thing happened. She killed Boreal.
What did you think of that? Did you see it coming?
I didn't see it coming. I didn't think she was going to hang about with him forever. I thought like maybe she was going to try and lose him, you know. But I don't know why she poisoned him. Just get your monkey to snap the snake. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, but at the same time, you know, she poisoned him.
Well, she's a type of person who I'd imagine doesn't like to get her hands dirty.
Yeah, and in the moment, like before that, you could see Boreal was sort of gearing up, thinking that he was going to kiss her or something, because his demon came out as if like very lovingly moving towards the monkey.
Yeah.
And then then he died. You know, she really baited him in.
Yeah.
So
I did enjoy that. And you know what?
Yeah.
I think special mention for how it was shot, because you know it had that thing of Boreal was lying like this, and there was the tear coming down his face, and it was really like epic shot. It was beautifully shot, and it was very like almost very grand, I suppose, and like it was very Mrs. Coulter to just sit in a.
Oh, she sat there for ages
she
after.
Did. I thought that was really creepy and really well done. That she was just sort of sitting basking in the murder she just committed.
Yeah.
Like I enjoyed that sort of from a character perspective. To just sitting like drinking a toast to whatever he thought they were toasting. To the groom. Yeah. Yeah. We've just been listening to Hamilton.
Yeah. But like that was weird. Like she kept drinking the wine.
It kind of shows you that she's like, we always knew she was evil, but it kind of adds a little bit of a sense that she's actually also unhinged.
Yeah.
A little bit. Which, you know, I think it's kind of cool, and it just adds to the sense of how scary she is. And she's not, and it tells you as well, like she doesn't seem to have any limit in what she's prepared to do to get her way.
Yeah, and the thing is, I don't even know what her way is. Like, I don't know what she wants.
Yeah, well, she wants Lyra, doesn't she?
Yeah, but I don't believe she wants Lyra just to be a loving mother to her. I don't.
No, I think she's. Having said that, I think meeting Lyra has sent her on this spiral of questioning who she is and what. And I think she thinks maybe that Lyra is the answer to the vacant space within her. But obviously, as we all know, she is a nutcase, so I don't think she's gonna find what she wants easily.
Yeah, like, I'm sad to see Boreal go, to be honest with you. I thought he was a good character.
And I thought he was well played. I will say, now, I don't know if this is just how I imagined it in my head or if it was expressly mentioned, but when I read the books, I think the romantic undertones were a lot less obvious, and also I got the impression that Boreal was a good bit older than her.
Okay.
So whenever it comes,
they seem to have aged down a few characters, like Scoresby as well.
Yeah, they have. I don't know why, but with Lord Boreal, I find, the character, in the show, is the same character, but he's almost a bit too cool. Whereas I find Boreal was, like, I imagine like an old man who was creepy as well, but like, maybe a good 15 years older than Mrs. Coulter and quite overweight, who just like had led this indulgent life and sat and got things handed to him that he wanted, and kind of a little bit
this Boreal was like a go-getter.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I didn't think Boreal in the book was a go-getter, and I, to the point where I actually thought and as I said before, the romantic undertones weren't so obvious, and sort of whenever Mrs. Coulter sort of came onto him, as it were, in the story, in the book, it was a little bit out of left field for me, but I was like, ugh. Like, really? Mrs. Coulter, this old guy? Oh, you're killing him. Okay, fair enough. So that's kind of how I took that. Yeah. But also, it felt very much like she had been working on him. Working on him slowly, to be attractive to him, and then bam, suddenly she's like, right, time to strike.
Yeah, whereas in the show, like, he always wanted her.
Yeah, he always wanted her, and she always played that game. Whereas it felt a lot of give and take in the show. I think it was in the book, it was just more like, oh well, time to kill him, so I better use my womanly ways and seduce him.
That's interesting. I think. Yeah, I'm going to sad to see him go. I think he was an interesting character. He served his purpose. Now his purpose was to get Will the knife. That was his purpose was to get Will the knife.
What, for our sake, as the audience, you mean? Like,
well, to propel Will's story forward and the story forward. Like, you need to have you need to have reasons put in place for certain things to come to pass. There's no way they would have ever went up into that tower to get that knife if it wasn't for Boreal wanting it. So. He's, unfortunately he turned out to be a plot device, but at the same time, I think he was.
I believe he had his own. He did have his own arc, I think.
Yeah, maybe not. Maybe he didn't complete his arc. Coulter took him.
Yeah, he died before he was able to complete his arc.
He never really met.
It didn't.
He never had his meeting with the goddess.
Yeah.
Or maybe he did, and he died. That's how he died.
It didn't feel incomplete to he. Okay.
Yeah, but he wasn't the main character. Like, he was never gonna have a redemptive arc or anything like that. He was very much there to service the main character's plot.
That's true. Okay, yeah, I take that point.
Yep. So another thing I wanted to talk about was the witches healing Will's hand and revealing. Now, I don't know if this was revealed before. It felt new to me, and maybe it's just because I'm not remembering correctly. But revealing that Will, there's a boy who's in the prophecy is meant to protect Lyra. So that would be Will, obviously. I don't know if that was revealed before in the show. It felt very, I don't know, maybe I just assumed they're meant to be together, so I felt like I'd heard that before. But it makes sense. Yeah. And I like that as well, because it means like the witches like Will now. I'm glad they were able to fix his hand.
Have they fixed his hand, though?
Well,
they tried.
Yeah. I thought they should have just cut his whole hand off and then tried to.
That would make sense.
Of course it would. That's what you do when you got your fingers gone. Hand off,
right.
Reseal the wound. That's a real thing. Like, if you're
seal the wound. You don't have to remove the entire hand.
Sometimes you do. That's why people get their feet taken off diabetes and stuff. Sometimes you have to remove the whole thing.
Yeah, but
if it was that bad, you'd have to remove the hand, and then you'd have a fresh wound to go with. That's what I'm saying. That's what I thought they were gonna have to do.
Well, I said it was a magical wound, and a magical wound needed a magical, like, healing.
Yeah, go and get me some herbs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of wanted to see more of the spell. The spell in the story, in the book, was kind of a really cool, sort of ritual with about, which I remember it at least being with about 30 witches all standing in a circle and chanting and clapping in the moonlight and stuff.
I
like
will
this.
say,
Yeah.
this is really weird you say that. When I was watching the scene where they were doing the ritual on Will, I thought to myself, well, this is a scene which would have been cooler in the book. I honestly thought
You are correct. I think they've done the witches a bit of a disservice in this episode. Like, this was the witches' moment to shine, and for some reason there's only about 2 of them.
Serafina Pekkala. I love this voice of her demon.
Yeah.
The voice of her demon is so cool.
He sounds like a librarian.
He does, yeah.
He needs a little like spectacles on the end of his beak or something, doesn't he? He's like a little wizard. I just feel like the witches in this episode, it was their moment to shine, and it was a little bit underwhelming. And you know, again, okay, yes, we've lost a lot of witches in this war, as it were, that the Magisterium has launched, but at the same time, like, they're not all but 2 or 3 of them gone. Do you know what I mean? Like, there was still a sense in the book of a community of witches, a coven, if you will.
Well, most of them are dead now.
Yeah, but there were tens of them
left. Yeah,
yeah.
Well, probably are still, but yeah.
Yeah, but like it, you know, I felt like they were all moving together. What was left of the community was all moving together and doing things together as a community. And
it's one of those things when you're making a TV show. It's like, well, we can either put a demon in this scene, or we can have 3 more witches in that. You know, in that other scene, like it's a budgetary thing, or maybe it's just that's the decision they went with for a stylistic way. But
I mean, it's a bit like that thing on Game of Thrones. The translation from book to film, book to TV, is that, you know, and they end up inevitably merging all the prostitute characters into one
into
main
Roz,
into one like main prostitute,
which makes sense.
It does, yeah. I mean, so I can see the logic of it from the point of view of us as the audience members keeping track, of what that community is doing without confusing us by throwing too many faces at us. Yeah. But still, it felt like it suffered a bit for it, in my opinion. Yep. I'd be interested to see what our listeners feel in the comments. Yeah, especially let us know, do you agree with me about Boreal as well? Like, you know, was he this old creepy guy, or did I just completely miss the sexual undertones in the in the book? maybe I was just really naive and didn't notice them. Yeah. And also about the witches, let us know what you think. Maybe it worked for you. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, there's only 2 more things I wanted to mention. We can mention, don't even need to talk about it. There was a cool air battle with Scoresby and Grumman. Yeah. There's not really too much to say about it, I don't think. Really. It was just well done. It was. Yeah. He can summon the wind. Yeah.
Grumman is growing on me.
He is?
Yeah. I liked him more in that.
He looks less like an 80s rock punk now.
Well, not even his aesthetic I'm referring to. It's his demeanor. Yeah. Like, he was this old-timey hippie dude, but I guess he had some actual practical uses this time.
It's like, why can't you fly? And he's like, well, technically, I can fly.
I think he was a bit more of a cheeky chappy in this episode, instead of just being all vague and aloof and mystical. And I think I started to like him more for that, and it's probably a realistic depiction of a relationship between the 2 of them growing.
Yeah. I think they'll become chums. And you'd think if they do become chums, then actually my prediction of Grumman not wanting to help Will in a way is wrong. Like, if Scoresby and Grumman actually do start having sort of similar, like, they start becoming friends and stuff, maybe that'll be a fracture in their relationship later because Grumman has ulterior motives. But maybe he doesn't. Maybe he's just a guy who he's looking for his son.
I mean, I don't think he's been dishonest.
No, but to me it's going to be so
nothing straightforward with him.
It's going to be so strange if it's just like you know, we've heard this this mysterious character of Will's dad has went off into these worlds, and then when we meet him, he's like, now, what do you call him, a wizard? What is he?
Yeah, shaman.
A shaman. He's now a shaman, and he can he's learnt all the ways of these worlds. He has a demon now, but his only storyline is that he wants to be dad again. That just seems that's not happening. Like, there's something going on. There's something. Maybe he's working with Azrael. I don't know. Something's going on.
Yeah, I think he definitely can see that there is a bigger picture. He can see more than Scoresby. Like, Scoresby is just like, I want to get to Lyra. I don't have time for your bullshit. I don't care about a war. Mm-hmm. I want to protect Lyra and make sure she's okay. And I think he's seeing a bigger picture that and steering sort of everyone into the right position, as it were.
Yep, which next episode everyone needs to be in the right position. So the last thing I wanted to mention was just the sort of... It was a lovely little scene between Angelica and Mary.
Yeah.
And there was a moment there where the two young girls, sort of just wanted a hug.
Yeah.
And wanted to, you could stay for a while and you can... The only thing I'll say, and like it was a lovely, touching scene, and I thought it's like we saw like the hard shell of those two girls crack because we haven't seen it yet.
Yeah. And
it was also funny whenever they were like, "Well, shouldn't we have tried to kill them?"
It's like, how long have they not had any moral guidance for?
I know.
Like, how long have their adults been away?
We didn't know the world of Chitagazzi. That's the thing.
Yeah.
But
the culture could be completely different.
Yeah, but basically, Angelica. The only thing I'll say is the actress Bella Ramsey, like her performance in this, as well as her performance in the Game of Thrones. When she started saying like you could stay for a while and she started being more vulnerable, I'm not sure if I believed it.
Really?
I don't know if I went along with her in that performance because I look at that actress and I think she can take care of herself. Like, I mean, that's the air she gives off at all times.
Yes, I know what you mean, but at the same time, I think part of what was problematic about it was not her performance, but rather her age.
Yeah.
Like, because actually
she's a little older. Like
she's
14
a little bit,
or so.
Yeah, she's a little bit too old to not genuinely have realized that killing someone is wrong. And I think it's not her performance, it's not really her fault. It's more that
they casted maybe too old for that character.
Yes, and especially whenever she did, well, her younger sister, well, I'm assuming is her sister or her younger friend, whatever, goes and gives Mary a hug. They're almost the same height, and I'm a bit like, you're no little kid, like, you're.
Well, it seems to me HBO wanted to lock up that actress Bella Ramsey from what do you call it, from Game of Thrones, like, so they cast.
Oh yeah. Maybe.
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, I think she was really good in the role. I don't want to take away.
Oh no, she's very good, yes. But in moments like that where it does depend on this being a little helpless child, it's not as believable as it could be.
Yes, especially because it could be believable if the character was a little bit less intelligent.
Yeah.
But the character is quite intelligent and quite spiteful and has her own agenda, and as you say, can take care of herself. So that little bit of vulnerability, it was almost too vulnerable to be believable.
Yeah, I agree. Right, guys, that is episode 6 of season 2 of His Dark Materials. We are going to be back for episode 7, which is the finale of the season next week.
I'm looking forward to that.
I'm really, really looking forward to that. Yeah. I've said before, in terms of the story, in terms of where we're going to end up at the end of the season, I have no idea. I'm making predictions based on big themes in the show, but I don't actually know where we're going in a plot perspective. So I don't know where we're ending up. I think we might go to a new place at the end of next season, end of the next episode, but I'm not 100% sure. Right, guys, seeing as we're coming to the end of His Dark Materials, now, Eimear is going to take a little break, I think, from doing reviews because, we've got a new baby in the house and we're very tired and Christmas and everything like that. But if you want to see us react to anything in the future, let us know in the comments. Have you enjoyed these videos? Would you think that Eimear and I have we're married and, we're best friends, so we probably have a pretty good dynamic going on here. But I mean, like, do you enjoy listening to us talk? Do you want us to cover more things in the future?
I'll not be offended if you tell me to fuck off. Is what you're saying.
No, I don't want that to happen. I basically want you guys to convince her to do more. So because we've got lots of plans for the channel going forward involving Eimear and in different sorts of things, I'll just say, but I'd like to keep her in these little discussion videos as well. We're not going to go each show back to back. It won't be a weekly thing forever. But if there's other shows come up that you would like us to cover, let us know if you'd be up for this again. But next week, I
will say as well, it'll get easier when we're not living in a global pandemic, because at the minute, obviously, we have no access to babysitters.
Exactly.
So at the minute, like, we're grabbing our opportunities to film this together whenever the toddler's asleep and the baby's like just contentedly being rocked.
What do you call it? Mollified?
Yeah.
No, is that really harsh?
No, I think it's
pacified.
Yeah.
Anyway, there we go, guys. So next week's the finale, so we'll see you then. Pop any things in the comments you think would be cool for us to cover. And apart from that,
well, I just want to say thanks for having me on the channel.
Yeah, well, you're lucky. There's many applications for this show. And,
there you go.
You cream rose to the top. We'll just say that. Right, guys. Thanks very much. We'll see you later. Bye bye.